You know, I was wondering what to say at the start of this, but then I figured, actually, I'll just shut up and... I'm not ready yet. Let it speak for itself. Hello, my fellow sorcerers, and welcome to the PTR. There has been, as I'm sure you know by now, sweeping foundational changes to Diablo 4, and I'll be honest with you, I have never had more fun in this game than I am having right now. And it basically means that Season 4, when it comes out at the start of May... look, how should I put this? I'm really excited for the release of Diablo 4 finally next month. Yay! But, look... we've got here, and I am not here to talk generalities, I want to talk Sorcerer, because as you know, it is my passion when it comes to this ARPG, and well, Sorcerer is on the up. The changes to gear, itemization, affixes, and the new systems involved there within have given us some wonderful new options, on top of making everything just so much easier on a base level for us. So that's kind of what I want to talk about as we have a look at how this class is faring with everything that's happened. And while I want to sit down and actually think and go through and look at potential new builds from everything, I do want to at least start with what you just kind of saw. Yeah, the classic fractured, I say classic, it's a new item, but it will be a classic fractured Winterglass Frozen Orb. I guess Frozen Orb itself is the classic, and it is so nice to finally have a unique all around it, and a really good one at that. I think it's a bit random, because Frozen Orb really has nothing to do with conjurations, and conjurations really have nothing to do with Frozen Orb, but I'm not going to complain if my Lightning Spear, Ice Blades, and Hydra shoots out Frozen Orbs that summon more Lightning Spears, Ice Blades, and Hydras. It's just a fun chaos everywhere item that compounds in on itself, and it really both feels great and is super powerful. I am by no means in any kind of complete build here. You don't get a huge amount of resources when you start and boost level 100, and, you know, farming time is farming time. It's the PTR, we're losing all of this in like a week anyway, so there's no real reason to go super hard, but I definitely wanted to at least check this out, and just getting this unique by itself is, oh, you instantly feel it, especially given the buff to Conjuration Mastery, not just gaining multiplicative damage, but movement speed and mana regen. So when we start getting this ridiculous amount of conjurations out, and you can see the Conjuration Mastery stacks climb and climb and climb, we're up to 14, 15, that is over 100% more mana regen, which by itself completely solves all your mana problems. I do have Avalanche on, but I don't think Avalanche would be in the final form of this build, probably Shatter, but I don't want to get too into the nitty gritty. I want to do a separate video talking about new potential Sorcerer builds, but for now, yeah, there is a lot of instant fun to be had. But let's actually go look and talk about the new systems and how they affect us. Starting over here at the Oculus, the enchanting items, replacing affixes with the new affix list, yeah, the actual changes and the tightening of what's possible is really nice. The resist's kind of wasted for us, but this is gloves with resource cost reduction, which is really nice options. The chance to make enemies vulnerable is really nice as a new affix for any lucky hit build, because, you know, we kind of struggle a little bit to make that happen. We've just got Frost Nova, Lightning Spear, and Ice Blades, but if they're not really featuring too prominently, we kind of need to look elsewhere, and this might actually really rear its head. We also have a very solid lineup of ring options. Even stuff like mana on kill is interesting to play around with. We probably won't actually need it, but it is cool to see that actually happen. And of course, so we have our offhands where we have a much tighter spread, as you can see here, so we're much more likely to end up with something that genuinely actually helps. And while this is very much, you know, affecting every single class, because we're all getting the improved affixes, there is going to be a new, very much lower barrier to entry for any given sorcerer build that uses mana. Even just stuff like having pure extra raw mana regen early on while you're building up your items and you don't have enough resources to fully temper and masterwork yet, it's going to let you play builds that consume mana much earlier and much easier. And that was one of the main issues for Sorcerer. You kind of just had to clash into unstable currents to begin with, as it didn't use mana and it let you get online quickly, whereas now that is much lesser of the case. So the two big boys then when it comes to, well, how you actually improve gear. So we've got tempering then, and each one of these is its own distinct category, and inside of this we have our own little manuals of improvement. There are a lot of these manuals of improvement, as we can see here. If we go on the codex, and yes, having every single aspect in the codex is so glorious. There are so many sorcerer builds that are very much dependent on an aspect to bring it online, and now that we can actually just have them all sat there, at least at a minimum, from finding it once and salvaged, we don't need it on a good piece of gear, we can essentially just do anything at any point, and this collection is wonderful to see. It really is. But if we look at these tempering recipes, then yeah, there's a lot going on here, and there's a lot of them. Now, of course, this is for every class, so all 262 divided by the 5, but if we have a look at something simple like Elemental Surge, you can probably already see the potential there. And to highlight it more specifically, let's actually put it into practice. If we whack on your main weapon, you can obviously temper everything twice, and with your weapons you get a weapon one and an offensive one. So if we go into our weapon ones, these are the ones I currently have that have dropped for me, and these last forever. You can use them infinitely once you have found them in the highest legendary quality, and here's said Surge. Chance to deal shadow damage and poison damage. Yeah, Talrash's. That's pretty big. Now, of course, you can only have 2 weapon tempers, one on your main hand, one on your offhand, if you're using a 2-hand, and that's even more limiting. So, technically, this might be an issue in the mechanical strength-wise. It's best to just do poison on one, shadow on the other, get 5 stacks of Talrasha, enjoy. But then you do look at some of the others, and you start to think, okay, meteor size, firewall size, general size, blizzard size, teleport nova size, that one in particular might come in very handy. That's really good, but if you're precisely aiming, raw size doesn't actually matter too much, honestly. But the chance to cast things twice, okay, suddenly that's quite a big deal. Firebolt, for example, yes, it's a basic skill, but with the new unique, when you fire a firebolt through a firewall, it splits into more, does more damage. If you're now casting it twice, that's double the amount of splits. Okay, we actually see some proper cool synergies between our build, our skills, our uniques, and now our actual gear affixes. And let's be honest, the chance to cast any given skill twice, 2 frozen orbs, 2 lots of ice shards, 2 lots of chain lightning, or charged bolts, or ball lightning, for God's sake, that is so much fun. Just doubling up on the stuff on screen, killing everything, that's just really exciting to see, and it's the kind of shenanigans you want in an ARPG. You want to feel like you're able to break the game within the bounds that they have set, and casting things multiple times feels like that. And don't be dismayed by the percent chance being only, air quotes, 15%, because when we go to masterworking, if we had it on one of these items, well, it's going to get upgraded by 5% to start with at rank 1, but then it goes up to rank 12. So that chance to cast twice is going to be a very high chance to cast twice by the end of it. And let's not forget, you could put on both your weapon and your focus the chance for something to cast twice, and then masterwork fully both, and then you have got, like, it goes up to, let's say, 40-50% chance times 2 to cast twice. So you will have pretty consistent doubles, and then also pretty consistent triples, which is really amusing. Whether that's going to be numerically the most damage, I don't know, but it's definitely going to be the most fun, and that's really exciting. Hell, even the size stuff does get quite amusing if you go for that double up. So while Elemental Surge is a little bit, oh, it's just going to be that for Talrash's, isn't it? I think in reality it might actually not be, just because of how much you can get done with extra cast, because extra cast means extra chance for things to trigger, lucky hit to happen, and that can really compound and roll through your build. And that's just weapons that I've talked about here. As I said earlier, with the ability to get mana-based builds online, now we don't have to wait until we get rings with resource cost reduction, with resource generation, because it's just a basic recipe that you will find. Whack it in the resource category, and then world stability, resource gen, cost reduction, and chance to resource. That is so good. That means any given pair of rings you have will have the one of these three that you want it to have, and suddenly you can deal with mana. The same with your necklace, and cooldown reduction eventually too, and then we have a little more unique things like cooldown reduction on specifically your ultimates. Now, technically, you could put this on both rings, stack the same one, let's say on stable currents, and get like 60-70% DR on just that, and then by itself it's permanently up without any other help, almost. You see what I mean? There's a lot of new paths to doing something niche, unique, and fun that just didn't exist before on Sorcerer. And yes, every class has this, but I am here to talk about Sorcerer, because, you know, it is, as we know, the best class. So that's really exciting. There is a lot of really cool options here, and if we just look at general offensive, well, then we can focus in on very specific types of damage, or just general mastery if you wanted it here. Then we can go in the conjurations, and then just general damage. There'll be a frost and lightning version of this too, so we can really kind of get fine-tuned. But to be fair, mechanically speaking, it is the weapon ones that are really going to enable and change builds. The others are a lot more stat-based. But even then, we do get some definitive help when it comes to it. Even stuff like Frost Nova size from the control aspect. If we can double the size of Frost Nova, suddenly it's less melee-orientated, and that's filled with potential as well. So yeah, overall, I think there is so much that we can actually make happen with this new system in terms of it actually giving us some proper new builds to work with. And these are the recipes that you find, and you activate them, and then you've got them forever on that list. This is a duplicate, so I've just kind of left it sat here for an example. But I mean, look at this necklace that I've already found. Resource cost reduction and cooldown reduction, yeah, that's pretty damn good. And I could make it even better with said tempering. It's really actually exciting to get items now, and on your necklace you can basically do everything but weapons, which is really nice. Just immediately add some pure movement speed, but we also have evade cooldown reduction, which can then play into teleport enchant, making you able to teleport a lot more, and oh, okay. But then there's also mobility cooldown reduction, which again, teleport. And why is that particularly exciting? Well, because teleport suddenly has an actual viable build that I really particularly kind of like the look of. The ability here to make it do 500% multiplicative more damage, that's already great, but then as we just saw, we can increase the size of teleport by using the tempering on our weapon and getting the shock augment. So perhaps a build in our future where we just teleport on top of people and blow everything up? And as you might know, that's something I've been trying to make happen anyway before all of this. The point that I'm really trying to highlight here, as I realize I've just kind of been laboring, is that there is a lot of new builds to discover, and Season 4 is going to bring a lot more actual invention rather than just, here's Season 4's version of Arclash, here's Season 4's version of Meteor, here's Season 4's version of, and so on and so forth. There will be that, and it will actually be quite uniquely different, but now there's going to be so many more discoveries available based on these combos that's impossible to just immediately figure out right now so early into this PTR. That's very, very cool. And then, yes, masterworking, as we say, just increases the affix power on everything, but then that lets us bring into some real critical masses on cooldown reduction, or resource generation, or resource cost reduction. Like, we can actually end up in some silliness. Infinite mana is just going to be standard, and then some, with actual very little help on that front, and I, for one, can't wait to get into it. So, yeah, in Sorcerer's case, we've got a lot of interesting things that can happen, and I cannot wait to make them happen. And then beyond that, even just a lot of our baseline changes are really quite nice. Normally, you'd never be bothered to go into the extras of Ice Armor, but this here, reducing its cooldown by 2 seconds for every 50 mana you spend, with how infinite you can get mana easier than ever, it's very much, well, doable to reset the cooldown completely before it's up, which is a path to kind of immortality as Sorcerer, but then it's competing with 15% multiplicative more damage to Frozen, which actually is really good for any build doing that. So there's actual some decisions to make here, as opposed to a very straightforward, this is just best, as it was before. I still think, though, to, of course, have it not all sunshine and rainbows, because it's not, enchantments do definitively still need work. It's still a little bit too good to do your fire synergy with your devouring blaze. Only having 2 slots is a little bit lame. I still think a lot of the enchantments are perhaps a little bit too boring or not powerful enough, and I think we could definitely do more with it, but I think that is the only thing left. I think it's the last bastion of making Sorc better, is just a slightly more robust enchantment system. Hell, I just want Incinerate to work still, and to be fair, we do have this, which is just, it's so much fun. Like, it's probably not going to be good, but it is so much fun. Look at that. The split triple Incinerate beam. I mean, that is really a visual treat, and I so want to make it work. And I'm totally going to, I promise. At some point in Season 4, we are going to dominate with split Incinerate, because it's just wonderful. And that's the kind of aspects that you want to see when it comes to these spells. Actually give them something properly different in how they function, and then you can really make that work. So yeah, more than anything, we're just having a great time. There is a lot of new stuff to explore, a lot of new stuff to work for, and the peak power of Sorcerer is going to be kind of absurd when you reach some critical mass thresholds that just let you coat the screen in your chosen spell. I feel like they almost don't know what they've done with some of those tempering affixes we can add, and we are going to see some nutty builds. So if you are on the fence, if you're wondering how it is, if you love your Sorcerer, if you're thinking about Season 4, it's the time. It will never be the time again, because Season 4 will be the season of discovery when it comes to all the absurd interactions now available, and in terms of power, fun to play, and theorycraft excitement, Sorcerer is in the best place it's ever been, and I cannot say that enough. So that's kind of my initial look at what's going on for now, and I hope you have enjoyed it. Let me know what you are thinking. Like if you enjoyed this, subscribe and hit the bell for more. Consider supporting the future of the channel on Patreon down below. And God, it's just so good. This build by itself makes me want to play Season. Like, it's so hilarious. Oh my God, I love Frozen Orb. It's just ridiculous. Okay. Goodbye.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.